main reason I became a mental performance coach, I think it was tied a lot to my experience in my career so far as a clinical counselor. So a bit about my background. I come from a clinical counseling background. I did my Master of Counseling degree, and over the last little while, I've been working in the counseling field, and I started to bridge the gap and work with a lot of other athletes because of my experience, both with mental health and being an athlete. And so that kind of like transitioned into also combining a little bit of my counseling skills and like also working in the coaching field and like seeing how I could navigate both of those. And it's been really interesting to, see the overlap between counseling and coaching. And so that's kind of like how I got into it. It was always something that I knew that I wanted to do and that I knew I was passionate about because of my, my upbringing and because of playing sports my whole life. And so it was something that I feel like was always missing from my game especially. So it's something that I'm really passionate about and something that I find a lot of joy and fulfillment and meaning in, being able to help people and athletes in that position. So. CEP mindset I've known about for a couple of years for sure, and I knew it was always something that I was interested in. I had actually reached out to Cassidy a number of years ago and just kind of like picked his brain and talked about his path to get to where he was and what he did for schooling and all that. And then I went into my master's program and did my schooling and kind of found my path. But so I'd always kind of like known about CEP and known that that's something that would be a potential that I would want to do, something that I would love. And then the opportunity kind of presented itself when I was doing some work for Ben Finelli, who runs Heroic Minds in the app and stuff like that. And Cassidy reached out to Ben, and Ben provided me as a referral, who would be kind of like a good fit to join CEP as not only a mental performance coach, but also someone who has the clinical counseling background as well. So that's kind of how I found out about CEP. Having a strong mindset and being mentally tough is something that's going to be a little bit different for everyone, I think. And coming from my perspective, I think someone, and especially an athlete who has a good mindset, is someone who, maybe if you look at something like consistency, they're not necessarily like having big ups and downs. It's maybe, we all have ups and downs, especially as athletes, and so maybe their ups and downs aren't as like big. The wavelength isn't as big. Maybe they're having some bumps in the road, but it's not necessarily affecting them as much. It's not affecting their performance as much. They're able to have more of like a steady performance, steady even keel with their like emotions, with their mindset. When they experience adversity or setbacks or things like that, they're able to kind of like push through that adversity and be resilient and kind of like use their mindset or their emotional strength to be able to like help them through it. And being able to like get through challenges and stuff like that is obviously like a characteristic of having a strong mindset, but also like develops that mindset and that mental strength even further to the point where maybe not necessarily to the point where you're not fazed by things, but when you experience things, maybe it's more so like, I can, the positive self-talk, like I can get myself through this, the managing your emotions, like being in control of your emotions. So I think there's a lot of different variables that go into it, but having a strong mindset and being mentally tough is someone who's able to like have that consistency and able to establish and display resiliency in the face of challenge. I would say my approach to being a mental performance coach is a lot like my approach to my role as a clinical counselor as well. Obviously, I work with athletes in my clinical counseling role on their mental health, but I don't view my role as a mental performance coach and my approach with athletes all that much different. I think it's very, I would say, client or person-centered, so very like focused on the individual and their specific needs. I don't think any one person is the same, and so even if two athletes might have similar needs, the approach to it is very different. So I think taking that person-centered approach and like positioning them as like someone who knows themselves better than anyone else, and like being able to like pull out strengths from, you know, their past experiences, but also to develop and coach them through learning new tools and strategies for strengths is something that's super important. I think there are so many parts that I love about it and so many rewarding parts. I think firstly, the first thing that comes to mind off the bat is being in a position to be able to like help and support other people, especially seeing them go through struggles and challenges and difficulties, and a lot of them the same struggles and challenges and difficulties that I went through in my own hockey career and my own career as an athlete, and being able to like help people through that because I didn't have someone to turn to, or a resource or an area of support that I could turn to help me with a lot of the mindset tools and just having the proper mindset that an athlete desires or wants to have to be able to perform at a high level. So that would be the first thing. I think it's also it's rewarding work because we get to do what we love and do it in an area like athletics where we're passionate about. But also for me, I find it so rewarding because to be able to like share moments of like difficulty or challenge or vulnerability with someone else and be able to hear their story and to be able to like help them through that, and also be able to like coach them through that and provide the necessary tools or resources that they need to get through that, as well as just like the empathy and the understanding that, you know, we convey to them as coaches, I think ultimately just gets them to a place where they can take a lot more pride or be a lot more satisfied with themselves and confident in their performances, and that's a pretty rewarding experience to witness.